Oh my gosh, this is gonna be like my first makeup tutorial ever. So yeah, some of you may know I have a huge passion for makeup, and it's been a long time coming since I've tried to make a tutorial, but to be honest with you guys, I don't know how to do anything with computers. The only reason that I'm doing this right now is because my cousin is so helpful and is good with this kind of stuff, so he will be helping me. But yeah, I'm doing a makeup tutorial on this right here, this look that I'm wearing, but I did it a long time ago, so this is kind of like a worn down face. It's been a while. So yeah, I guess all I want to say is that all the tips and the techniques that I'm using in this video, I have learned throughout like 3-4 years of watching YouTube videos and practicing on myself and other people. So this is just how I do it. This is what works best for me and the style that I like for myself. So if I do it right, then yay. If I do something wrong, sorry. If you guys could support, share, whatever, that'd be cool. If you don't, it's cool. But I like, nothing but positive energies and stuff, but I'd appreciate it. So yeah, thank y'all very much. Alright, so first thing first, always moisturize. I have very dry, acne prone skin, so I have to moisturize my skin all the time, especially because I don't usually like using a primer, but a moisturize is a must all the time. So then I use this Glamouflage concealer by Hard Candy. It's very, very heavy duty concealer, and I mix it with my Revlon Color Stay foundation, just because these two mixed together, they give my skin a lot more coverage than what I've been able to achieve with other products. So yes, I do put a lot on, but the end result ends up being worth it. So I put the Glamouflage concealer down first, and then I mix just a little bit of that foundation in. And then I use just a disposable makeup sponge, and I like to mix those two together, and then I put them on my skin in layers. I build the layers up, it builds up the coverage, and it also blends everything the best that I possibly can blend it. And then I hate getting foundation on my lips, so I always take that off. And I always pull this foundation down to my neck. You'll see me do that here in a little bit. And then wherever I need extra coverage, I always just take more of that mixture that's on the back of my hand, and I just press it onto where I need the most coverage. Okay, so then I'm using this Wet n Wild concealer. It's a couple shades lighter than my skin tone, and I like to highlight my face, so I make little triangles under my eyes and do that whole deal. This foundation this concealer isn't that great. I use something actually different now, but I was just kind of doing it for the sake of the video, just to show how I like to highlight my face when I use any concealer, really. And I go back and forth between using the sponge and my fingers. It's usually just whatever I'm more comfortable with at the time. And yeah. And then I just use any random powder. This one's Wet n Wild translucent powder, and I use just a flat brush, and I like to press the powder into my skin, because when you push it on, it doesn't move any of the foundation that I had put on previously, and it gives me the most coverage that way. So I like to do it like that. Then we're gonna get started on our eyebrows. Make sure our eyebrows on fleek, so I use my Anastasia brow pomade and their brush that goes with it, the dual-ended brush. My dip brow is in soft brown. I don't like to use anything too dark. I use the eyebrow color, the soft brown, because it's lighter than my eyebrow hairs. My eyebrow hairs are very dark, so if I use something dark, it's going to make my eyebrows look like black, and I do not want that. I want a softer look. So I always brush through my eyebrow hairs to get out that foundation and make sure all the eyebrow hairs are, nice and groomed, I guess. And then I always smooth out the tip of the brush. That way, wherever I put it, it can be as precise as possible. And I start with the bottom. I line the bottom of my eyebrow, and as you can see, the end of my eyebrow is a lot thinner than the front part, so I'm a lot more careful when I'm working on the end part of my eyebrow. And I always use the most product at the end of my eyebrow. I want it to be darkest at the end, and then as I move forward in my eyebrow, I begin to not put any product on my brush at all. Like right here at this part, I'm putting on more and more product because I want all those places where I don't have hair to look like I have hair. And then as I move up, I don't put anything on the brush. So then I line the bottom and the top part so that that front part of my brow, I can fill that part in and make it look how I like it. So I pretty much drag those lines and connect them into the middle, and I hold the brush at the very end. That way I'm putting the least amount of pressure as possible because I want the front to look as blended as I can make it look. I don't want the front part of my eyebrow to be too harsh. So that's the end after just using only the Anastasia pomade on one brow. And then I take Faint from my Naked Basics palette, and I just take any dark brown eyeshadow, and I only place this at the end of my eyebrow where I didn't have all that hair, where I had to make my own shape. I just put it to darken it a little bit, and then I blend everything together with my spoolie. And then I use this Anastasia, it's a brow gel, a tinted brow gel, and I use one that's a lot lighter because I like the look of having, you know, the dark pomade, the dark eyeshadow, and then I put something really light just onto the hairs of my eyebrow. I like that gradient effect that it kind of gives my eyebrow. If you shine a light on it, it just looks like you got all these different colors in there, so I like that. Then I take a Boyd concealer, just any concealer, and I clean up the edges to the brow. So underneath, oh, and then I just use a flat little square brush, whatever works. So then I go underneath the eyebrow, and I like to make this very precise. And then on the top, I always just kind of flick the concealer down because I have a lot of hair right there, so I try to keep it natural as possible. But at the end of the brow where I don't have hair is where I have to be careful, and I shape that exactly how I want it. So there's our brows all put together. And then we're gonna move on to contouring or bronzing, whatever. So I use just this NYC stuff and then a Real Techniques, a big fluffy brush. And right now I'm just kind of bronzing. I just put this color onto my skin because, as you can see, I am very pale after all of the stuff that we've been putting onto my face. So I just kind of, this process, it takes a long time. If you want, like me, I like a lot more dramatic contour or bronzer or whatever, so I layer a lot on. It's a lot more than what it looks like in this video. It takes a while. But I go layer by layer to blend it as much as possible, and then I always take my foundation brush and the powder brush, and I blend it more. So then I take this MAC blush, and I just take a fluffy, this is a e.l.f. complexion brush, and I like to flick the product onto my cheek. And I layer it this way as well, but I like to flick it just so that you can't really see where it starts, you can't see where it ends either. But I do go a little heavy-handed all the time with my blush. I just always do, so I always go back and blend it out. And then just for the sake of this video, I wanted to show a little bit more of definition when it comes to contouring and stuff. So I just take my Hulu bronzer with the brush that comes with it, and I kind of only press the product into the hollow of my cheek, and then I kind of flick it upwards just for as much definition as possible. And then once again, I always go through and I always blend it out with my foundation brush, my powder brush, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our eyes. I use a Urban Decay primer potion. You just put that on, self-explanatory. I take this big fluffy brush, any big fluffy blending brush, and then for a transition color in the crease, I use just my bronzer. I like warm colors on my eyes, and then I try to hold the brush up at an angle, that way it kind of blends it out as I go, but then I also put it down in layers so that it ends up, you know, flawless. Then I take this blending E36 Sigma brush. It's a smaller blending brush, I take my Naked palette and Buck. It's that darker color, and I only use this in the crease. Like with the first color, the bronzer, I was not careful with it. I just flicked it around everywhere because it was just my transition color. But this color, I wanted to be specifically in my crease because I like the textured, very defined look that it gives to my crease. But I also wanted to stay really blended and blown out because I like those smoky, sultry looks. Then I take Dark Horse from the Naked palette, and I only, using the same brush, I only push this into the outer V of my eye. And I also do this in layers. Eyeshadow, it takes a long time, at least for me, just because I want everything to be as blended as possible. So I always do things in layers rather than just taking a lot of product and sticking it wherever you want to stick it, because it's a lot harder to blend the eyeshadow out that way. So then I take a flat shader brush and I take Half Baked, that gold color. I went with gold. I was making this eye look up as I went, so I just wanted something simple. And then I start from the bottom lashes and I move my way upwards, and I kind of like switch back and forth between sweeping the product and pushing the product onto my eye. Wherever I want the most color, I push it on, and then wherever I just want it to blend out, I sweep it. I go into my tear duct and I kind of flick it around. So then we're going to move on to eyeliner. I take my Wet n Wild liner, and then I always start with the wing first, from the bottom, the corner of my eye, and pull it out. And then I just bring it in, connect it like halfway to my eye. And then with less product on your brush, I go through and I perfect the point, and I perfect the shape, and then you can bring it into the front, and I just do a very thin line in the front because I like the catty look when it's thicker on the outer end and then thin on the inside. So there's one done, and then we're gonna move on to lashes. I stack these eyelashes. I just take any lashes that I like, and then a dark tone eyelash adhesive, and I always just put a layer of glue on my eyelashes, set them down, and go put mascara on. And then I put a little bit of mascara on because I like to think that it protects my eyelashes from the fake eyelashes, but I don't know, that's just me. And then you take some tweezers, blow on them a little bit, and I always place them down on the center, and then I mess with the outer edge, and then eventually I mess with the inner part. And then I like to press my eyelashes to the fake eyelashes to blend those as much as possible. So there's one, and there's two. I love fake eyelashes. So then I take a bullet brush. We're just gonna go ahead and put eyeshadow down underneath our eyes. I use my bronzer again for transition, and then I use that butt color again. And I keep this really close to the lash line this time, just for the gradient effect. And then I use my blending brush again and I blend those together. I take my NYX Wonder pencil because I was not feeling black eyeliner. I just wanted to go with the flesh tone in my waterline. Opens my eyes up. And then I love putting mascara on my bottom eyelashes. I love bottom eyelashes. Then I take a highlight, took Venus, and just kind of sweep it underneath the brow, and that's what we end up with.